The vanished colony of Epsilon Eridani. The signal began as a heartbeat in the dark, not a beep, not a pulse of code, but a voice, soft, cracked, impossibly familiar, slipping through the static of my cockpit speakers like a ghost threading a needle. Aria, come home. I was alone on the Drifter, a one-woman scout ship hurtling toward Epsilon Eridani, and the only thing keeping me sane was the hum of the engines. Until that voice, my mother's voice, dead 20 years. I froze, fingers hovering over the throttle. The Federation had sent me because the signal carried my name, repeated over and over, like a lullaby carved into vacuum. They said the colony on Epsilon Eridani B had vanished 2 decades ago. No wreckage, no distress beacon, just silence. Until now. I leaned closer to the console. The waveform wasn't human. It danced. Fractal. Liquid. Alive. Like breath made of starlight. Aria, the garden remembers you. My throat closed. The garden. The hydroponic dome where I used to hide as a child, chasing fireflies that weren't fireflies. Where my mother sang to the tomatoes. I should have cut the feed, should have reported it as interference. Instead, I locked the course and pushed the engines past redline. The Drifter groaned, metal bones creaking. Fuel reserves, 38%. Return window, 14 hours. I had 72 hours before the planet's core destabilized. Seismic readings didn't lie. After that, Epsilon Eridani B would tear itself apart. I told myself I was here for answers, but the truth was simpler, crueler. I was here because the void had said my name, and I was too broken to ignore it. The Drifter kissed the upper atmosphere like a moth brushing flame. I watched the hull temperature climb, orange, crimson, white, until the viewport bled light. Then the clouds parted and Epsilon Eridani B unfurled beneath me, a bruised violet marble streaked with silver rivers that moved wrong. They coiled, unspooled, reknotted themselves. Not water, something thicker. I dropped through the final layer of haze, and the landing jets screamed. The ground rushed up, obsidian sand, glassy, reflecting the twin suns like shattered mirrors. I touched down in the valley where Colony Prime once stood. Silence. No wind. No insects. Only the soft thump, thump of my own pulse in the helmet. I stepped out. The suit's environmental readout flickered. Oxygen, 21%. Nitrogen, 77%. Trace, unknown, 2%. The unknown pulsed. The colony gates loomed ahead, 20-meter arches of carbon weave now draped in translucent vines that glowed faint indigo. They weren't plants. They breathed. Each exhale sent ripples across the sand, erasing my boot prints as fast as I made them. I followed the old service road. My childhood map lived in muscle memory. Left at the cracked fountain, past the school dome, into the residential ring. But the fountain was gone. In its place, a perfect sphere of liquid metal, hovering, spinning slowly. It reflected my visor, then my mother's face. I stumbled back. The reflection shattered into 1,000 silver moths and vanished. Fuel warning chimed. 31%. I had maybe 6 hours of surface time before I'd need to lift or die here. Inside the first habitat module, the air tasted of copper and lilacs. Emergency lights strobed red, but the walls moved. Veins of bioluminescent tissue threaded the durasteel, pumping something syrupy and gold. I touched one. It recoiled like a startled animal. On the floor, a child's drawing, charcoal on scent paper. Stick figures holding hands under a purple sun. One figure had my name scrawled beneath it in shaky letters. My handwriting. Age, 6. I knelt, The paper crumbled to dust at my touch, but the dust crawled, reforming into tiny letters that spelled, "We are still here." My wrist scanner screamed, "Seismic tremor, core instability accelerating. 68 hours until planetary rupture." I ran. I burst from the habitat into a plaza that used to be the market square. Stalls lay toppled like broken teeth. Between them, the air shimmered. Heatless, weightless, wrong. Then I saw it. A figure, no, a shape, rose from the ground as if the planet itself exhaled. It was a lattice of liquid starlight, threads of silver and violet weaving and unweaving, forming limbs, then faces, then nothing. It hovered 3 meters away, pulsing in time with the vines on the walls. My rifle snapped up on reflex. The muzzle trembled. The shape tilted, an imitation of curiosity. A single thread detached, drifting toward me like smoke. It brushed my visor and spoke without sound, a pressure behind my eyes. "You smell of the old garden." I flinched. The voice was layered, male, female, child, elder, all at once. My suit translator spat static. Another tremor. Dust rained from the sky in slow, crystalline flakes. The ground split 10 meters away, revealing a chasm glowing cobalt. From it rose more shapes, dozens, circling like curious wolves. I backed toward the nearest building. My boot heel crunched something soft, a human hand, desiccated, still clutching a data slate. The slate flickered to life. Day 7312. Symbiosis complete. Do not rescue. We are home. The nearest symbiote extended a tendril. It wrapped my wrist. Gentle, warm, electric. Images flooded my mind. Colonists kneeling in the garden dome, vines piercing skin, eyes rolling white with ecstasy. My mother's face among them, smiling. I yanked free. The tendril recoiled, leaving frostbite that burned. "Pain is memory," it whispered. "Let it go." My scanner screamed again. 64 hours to core breach. I turned and ran deeper into the colony, the symbiotes trailing like wedding veils made of moonlight. I ducked into the administrative spire, the tallest structure still standing. Its doors hung open like a broken jaw. Inside, the atrium was a cathedral of silence, lit only by the slow heartbeat of bioluminescent veins that had replaced every cable and pipe. I climbed the emergency stairs, 3 flights, 4, until I reached the director's suite, my mother's office. The desk was exactly as I remembered. Polished obsidian, a single hollow frame cycling childhood photos. Me at 5, gap-toothed, holding a tomato the size of my head, her arms around me. The frame flickered, then froze on her face, eyes wide, mouth open mid-laugh. Beneath the desk, a floor panel pried loose. Inside, a physical journal, real paper, rare as mercy. My mother's handwriting, frantic, ink bleeding where tears had fallen. Entry 1847. They offered us a choice: die with the planet or become its children. The core is failing, we mine too deep. The symbiotes say they can stabilize it, but only if we let them in. Literally. I said no. The council voted yes. I turned the page. My fingers shook. Entry 1849. The first volunteers are beautiful. Skin like opal, veins of starlight. They don't eat. They photosynthesize emotion. I watched Jenkins laugh for the first time in years. Real laughter. I'm terrified. Entry 1852. They took the children tonight. Said it was gentler. I fought. They showed me Aria's future. Alone, orbiting a dead rock, calling my name into vacuum. I stopped fighting. The last entry was a single line scrawled in red. "Forgive me, little star. I chose life." I screamed. The sound ricocheted off the walls, came back distorted. layered with 1,000 other voices, my own, older, younger, hers. The journal slipped from my hands, pages scattered like white moths. One landed face up, a charcoal sketch of me, age 6, standing in the garden. Beneath it, in my mother's hand, "She will come back. She must hate me enough to save us." A tremor stronger than any before cracked the floor. I fell to my knees. The veins in the walls pulsed faster, frantic. From the stairwell, footsteps. Not human. A wet, luminous slither. I grabbed the journal, stuffed it into my suit, and ran for the roof. Behind me, the symbiotes whispered in chorus, "Join us, daughter of the traitor." I burst onto the roof as the twin suns bled violet across the horizon. The city below had become a single organism. Domes fused into cartilage, streets into arteries, every surface breathing in slow, tidal rhythm. In the center of the roof garden, my mother's old sanctuary, stood a ring of symbiotes. Not the drifting wisps from before. These were architectures, towering lattices of light, each node a human face suspended in crystal. I recognized some. Teachers, neighbors, the baker who gave me extra honey bread. Their eyes tracked me, luminous, unblinking. At the ring's heart, a figure smaller than the rest, child-sized, glowing soft gold. It raised a hand, my mother's hand. The word arrived not as sound, but as warmth behind my sternum, like swallowing sunlight. I leveled my rifle. Step back. I'm taking the survivors and leaving. Laughter, rippling, choral, ancient. There are no survivors, only continuations. The child figure drifted closer. Its face shifted. My mother at 30, at 40, at the day she kissed me goodbye before evacuation. We are the wave. We do not conquer. We complete. My HUD flashed. 48 hours to core detonation. I had maybe 90 minutes of suit oxygen left. The wave extended a tendril of pure light. It split into 1,000 filaments, each ending in a memory. Me at 7 crying because the tomatoes wouldn't grow in Earth gravity. My mother singing in the dark when the power failed. The evacuation shuttle lifting while she stayed behind, waving until the doors sealed. Each filament pierced my suit, my skin, my mind. I saw the colony's final days, the council vote, the first volunteers lying in the garden as vines entered their veins like lovers. No screams, only sighs of relief. I wrenched free, gasping. "You stole them!" "We offered symbiosis. Your species offered extinction." A new voice cut through, human, ragged, real. "Aria, lower the weapon." From the shadows of the stairwell stepped Director Hale, my mother's second in command. His left arm was gone, replaced by a limb of braided light. His eyes were galaxies. "They're not lying. The core's collapse is irreversible without the wave. We tried to warn Earth, they sent bombs instead." I glanced at my scanner. Federation signatures, 3 cruisers dropping out of warp 30 minutes away, armed with planet crackers. Hale continued, voice cracking. "Your mother refused fusion until the end. She wanted you to have a choice. That's why the signal carried your name, not a lure, a key." The child figure, my mother's echo, opened its palm. Inside floated a seed of pure darkness, no larger than a tear. "Plant this in the core. It will anchor the wave. Save the planet, save us, or let the bombs fall and take the secret with you." I stared at the seed. It pulsed like a dying star. 48 hours, 30 minutes, one choice. I took one step toward the seed. The roof garden exploded, not with fire, but with sound, a chord of pure grief and fury that shattered the air. The ring of symbiotes convulsed. Faces in the lattice screamed. Human mouths stretched impossibly wide, light pouring out like blood. Hale's galaxy eyes widened. "No, They weren't ready for you to choose. From the fused domes below, a tide rose. Hundreds, no, thousands of hybrid forms. Torsos of flesh grafted to wings of light. Legs replaced by roots of crystal. Faces split between bone and nebula. They poured onto the roof in a wave of limbs and luminescence. A single roar. Trader's daughter. I fired. Plasma bolts carved tunnels through the front line, but the holes sealed instantly, flesh knitting with star stuff. Hale grabbed my arm. Run! The core shaft, east spire. We sprinted. Behind us, the garden uprooted itself, vines whipping like cables, tomatoes bursting into clouds of spores that burned where they touched. A child hybrid, my old classmate Miko, launched from the crowd, fingers elongated into spears of glass. Hale shoved me aside. The spears punched through his chest, pinning him to the wall. Light poured from the wounds. Aria, the seed, it's you. Your DNA resonates with the planet's mantle. That's why she stayed. That's why... A vine wrapped his throat. His eyes dimmed. I ran. The east spire loomed, a needle of obsidian and vein. Its doors irised open like a pupil. Inside, darkness that watched. The air tasted of ozone and childhood nightmares. My oxygen alarm shrieked. 45 minutes left. Federation cruisers, 18 minutes to orbit. I descended. Each level down, the walls grew warmer, wetter. The stairwell became a throat. Handrails pulsed. At the bottom, a cavernous chamber, the colony's geothermal tap. The drill head, once a monument to human greed, now cocooned in a lattice of wave tissue, throbbing like a heart the size of a house. In its center, the seed, floating, waiting. A new presence coalesced behind me. Not hybrid, pure wave. A silhouette of my mother, but taller, ancient, woven from every star that ever died. You feel it. The planet is a child, starving. We fed it our loneliness. Now it needs your rage. I raised the seed. It burned cold. Tell me the truth, all of it. The silhouette opened her arms. Memories flooded. Not hers, the planet's. First human bootprint cracking its crust. Drill biting too deep, waking something older than suns. The wave, refugees from a dead universe, offering merger to save both species. My mother's final vote, let my daughter choose. I saw the bombs priming in orbit, planet crackers that would turn Epsilon Eridani B into a warning. The silhouette knelt. Plant the seed, and the wave becomes the mantle. The hybrids become the surface. You become the bridge. Or refuse, and everything, human, wave, planet, dies screaming. Footsteps echoed above. The hybrids were coming. I had minutes. I pressed the seed to my chest. It sank. Not through fabric, through me. Skin parting like water, nestling against my heart. A second heartbeat answered, slow, planetary, ancient. The chamber walls convulsed. Hybrids poured in, a living flood. Their mouths opened in perfect synchrony. Kill the unbound. I braced for death. Then the silhouette shattered. Light exploded outward, coalescing into a woman. Flesh, blood, real. My mother. Older, scarred, eyes twin supernovae. She stood between me and the tide, arms wide. Enough! The word cracked the air like a whip made of gravity. The hybrids froze mid-lunge, limbs locked in crystalline stasis. She turned. Tears of liquid mercury traced her cheeks. Aria. Her voice was hoarse from disuse. You grew tall. I couldn't move. The seed pulsed inside me, syncing our heartbeats. You're alive? Barely. The wave kept my body as an anchor, a failsafe. If the merger failed, I'd wake to finish it. She gestured at the frozen army, their children, terrified of losing their new skin. I taught them fear was human. I was wrong. Above, the sky ignited. Federation cruisers breached atmosphere, contrails of fire. Their PA boomed across the planet. Colony Epsilon Eridani B, stand down. Planet cracker deployment in T-10 minutes. My mother's eyes met mine. The seed needs a conduit, someone with human will and planetary resonance. Your father was wave-touched before he died. I carried the echo. You carried the song. She took my hand. Her palm was warm, calloused, human. Why me? I whispered. Because you're the only one who ever left. You know what we're saving them from. The seed flared. I felt the planet's pain, its core fracturing, magma weeping like blood. I felt the waves' grief, refugees clinging to a dying host. I felt the hybrid's terror, children reborn in bodies they didn't choose. My mother squeezed once. I can't go with you. The anchor must stay. But you... A hybrid broke free of stasis. Miko, my childhood friend, her face half flesh, half nebula. She lunged, glass spears raised. My mother stepped in front. The spears pierced her chest. Time slowed. My mother smiled, blood glowing. Go. Sing for us. She pushed me. I fell backward into the core shaft, seed blazing, planet screaming, mother's heartbeat fading into the roar of a world about to end. I fell through fire that didn't burn. The core shaft was a throat of molten glass, walls veined with liquid starlight. The seed inside my chest had become a sun, dragging me downward on threads of gravity and grief. I landed in the heart of the planet. The chamber was vast, cathedral huge, its ceiling lost in crimson haze. At its center, the fracture, a wound in reality itself, a jagged fissure 30 meters wide, leaking plasma like arterial blood. Around it orbited the wave's true form, not tendrils, not lattices, but a single ocean of sentient light, swirling in toroidal currents, singing in frequencies that rattled my teeth. My suit dissolved. Not melted, unmade. Fabric unraveled into threads of memory, reweaving around me as armor of living crystal. The seed bloomed outward, roots of darkness threading my ribs, flowering into wings of night across my back. I was no longer falling. I was held. The ocean spoke with my mother's voice, the planet's voice, a billion voices braided into one. Sing, Thredge. I opened my mouth. No sound came. Instead, the fracture answered. Memories poured out of me. My mother's lullabies in the garden dome. The evacuation shuttle's engines drowning her final wave. 20 years of nightmares where I reached for her hand and grasped only vacuum. Each memory became a note. The notes became a chord. The chord became a keystone. I stepped into the fracture. Pain was a supernova. My bones liquefied, reformed, liquefied again. The wave poured into the gaps, knitting flesh with light, blood with plasma. I felt every hybrid on the surface, every child, every elder scream as the song rewrote their DNA. Above, the cruisers fired. The first planet cracker struck the upper mantle. The impact rippled downward as a pressure wave of annihilation. I had seconds. I spread my wings. The darkness at their core wasn't absence. It was memory. Every star that had ever died compressed into a single point of absolute night. I hurled it upward. The planet cracker met the night and stopped. Not exploded. Froze. A perfect sphere of suspended fire orbiting the wound like a second moon. I sang louder. The second missile followed, then the third. Each froze, became sculpture, became art. The cruiser's comms filled with static, pilots seeing their own childhoods reflected in the void. On the surface, my mother's body, still pinned by Miko's spears, moved. She opened her eyes, smiled, and dissolved into light that raced downward, joining me. Together, we sealed the fracture. The chamber went silent. The ocean stilled. The wings on my back folded into tattoos of living starlight across my skin. I was human. I was wave. I was the planet's new heartbeat. I rose through the planet's veins like a seed returning to light. The core shaft had become a birth canal of crystal and magma. My wings were gone, but the tattoos across my skin pulsed with the planet's slow, tidal heartbeat. I no longer needed a suit. The air knew me. I emerged onto the surface at dawn. The colony was transformed. Domes had become living geodes, streets rivers of liquid glass. Hybrids moved through them, some with human faces, some with none, tending gardens that grew fruit of pure sound. Children laughed in chords that made flowers bloom. Miko knelt where my mother had fallen. The spears were gone. In their place, a single white flower, petals edged in gold. Miko's eyes, half nebula, half tear, met mine. She said you'd come back singing. I touched the flower. It dissolved into light that settled on my tongue like honey. My mother's final note. Above, the frozen planet crackers hung in orbit like chandeliers of captured fire. The Federation cruisers drifted, silent. Their captains had seen their own reflections in the void, children waving goodbye to dying worlds. They were weeping. A shuttle descended, not armed, unmarked. The ramp lowered and a woman stepped out. Admiral Lin, the officer who'd sent me here to die. Her uniform was unbuttoned, hair loose, eyes red. She stopped 3 meters away. "We received your song." Her voice cracked. "The High Council wants to negotiate." I looked past her to the horizon. The twin suns rose in perfect synchrony, painting the sky in colors that had no names on Earth. "Tell them the colony isn't lost. It evolved." Lynn hesitated. "And you?" I spread my arms. The tattoos flared, star maps of every hybrid soul now bound to the planet. I am the bridge, but bridges go both ways. She boarded the shuttle. It lifted, carrying my words to a species that had forgotten how to listen. I walked to the garden dome, now a cathedral of living light. Inside, the tomatoes grew in spirals of song. I plucked one. It tasted of childhood, of lullabies, of a mother's hand, letting go so I could learn to hold the universe. I bit down. Juice ran down my chin like liquid starlight. Somewhere a child laughed. Somewhere a star was born. The planet breathed with me, and for the first time in 20 years, I was home. But home is never the end. It's the question we carry into the dark. What does it mean to be human when the stars themselves have learned to sing our names?